The Daily Stoic is not a book that asks to be rushed. It is not structured like a conventional self-improvement book, nor like a philosophical treatise meant to be read once and shelved. It is built as a companion, a daily guide, a steady voice meant to return again and again to the same essential questions. How should we respond to difficulty? What is actually under our control? How do we govern our emotions, ambitions, and impulses? How do we live well in a world that remains unpredictable, often frustrating, and always temporary? Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman take the teachings of ancient Stoicism and arrange them across the calendar, giving the reader one meditation for each day of the year. This format matters because it reflects the heart of the philosophy itself. Stoicism is not simply a body of ideas to admire. It is a discipline of practice. It must be rehearsed, remembered, and lived. In this summary, we will explore the book not day by day, but theme by theme. We will look at its central teachings on control, perception, discipline, ego, virtue, mortality, adversity, and service. And as we do, one of the most striking things about the Daily Stoic becomes clear. It does not offer escape from life. It offers a way to meet life with greater steadiness, dignity, and clarity. There are many books about Stoicism now, but the Daily Stoic remains distinctive because of its structure and tone. Instead of asking the reader to master the history of ancient philosophy, it offers a practical rhythm. One page, one day, one reflection. That changes the psychological experience of the material. Rather than creating pressure to understand everything at once, the book encourages repetition and absorption. You are not meant to conquer the philosophy in a weekend. You are meant to live with it. This makes the book particularly effective for modern readers. Many people do not need more information as much as they need more reminders. They already know, in some rough sense, that they should not overreact, that they should not let ego dominate, that they should focus on what matters. The problem is not lack of exposure to these ideas. The problem is forgetting them when life becomes stressful, exciting, unfair, or distracting. The Daily Stoic solves that problem by creating recurrence. It places wisdom inside routine. And there is something deeply fitting about that. Philosophy becomes less like theory and more like hygiene, something to return to each day because the mind, like the body, constantly accumulates tension and disorder. At the center of Stoicism lies one of the simplest and hardest lessons in all of philosophy. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. The Daily Stoic returns to this principle constantly because it changes everything. Much of human suffering comes from trying to dominate what cannot be dominated. We want the world to behave according to preference. We want outcomes to obey effort. We want other people to be sensible, fair, appreciative, loyal, and predictable. We want circumstances to align neatly with our plans. But reality does not make such promises. Stoicism does not say this bitterly. It says it clearly. There is freedom in recognizing the boundary between what belongs to us and what does not. Our judgments, efforts, intentions, discipline, and character are ours to shape. Weather, chance, reputation, other people's behavior, timing, history, and many outcomes are not. The Daily Stoic uses this distinction as an anchor. When something goes wrong, the first question becomes, what here is mine to govern? If the answer is only my response, then that is where my energy should go. This is not passivity. It is concentration. It protects the mind from scattering itself across impossible demands. It also creates dignity. A person who accepts reality without collapsing into complaint becomes stronger, not weaker. The world may still be difficult, but the inner life becomes more ordered. Another major theme in the book is perception. Stoicism teaches that external events often hurt less than the judgments we attach to them. Something happens, and then the mind begins its work. It narrates, exaggerates, predicts, dramatizes, compares, and spirals. An inconvenience becomes an outrage. A criticism becomes an identity wound. A delay becomes proof that everything is going wrong. The Daily Stoic repeatedly invites the reader to interrupt this pattern. See the event before decorating it with panic. Notice the story forming in the mind before treating it as truth. This is one of the reasons Stoicism remains so relevant. It speaks directly to emotional amplification. Modern life gives the mind endless material to react to, but the ancient insight remains the same. The event is one thing. Your interpretation is another. That distinction creates space, and in that space lies freedom. The point is not emotional suppression. It is clarity. If perception is distorted, then response will also be distorted. But if perception is steadier, more neutral, more honest, then even difficulty can be met more intelligently. The book teaches this again and again in different language, as if reminding the reader that the mind's first version of reality is not always the wisest one. The Daily Stoic speaks often about discipline, but not in the shallow sense of productivity performance. Stoic discipline is not mainly about squeezing more output from yourself. It is about governing yourself well. It means not being ruled by laziness one day and restlessness the next. It means not letting appetite, anger, vanity, or fear seize control of your conduct. To the Stoics, the undisciplined person is not free. They may appear free because no external force restrains them, but inwardly they are led around by impulse. The disciplined person, by contrast, possesses themselves. They can pause. They can endure discomfort. They can stay aligned with principle even when emotion surges. This kind of discipline is deeply connected to peace. Many disturbances in life come not only from what happens to us, but from the fact that we have not trained ourselves to remain steady. The Daily Stoic encourages this training not through punishment, but through practice. Small acts of restraint, repeated returns to perspective, willingness to endure without melodrama, commitment to principle over mood. Over time, these habits produce a quieter strength. The person does not become less human. They become less easily conquered by their own volatility. A powerful undercurrent throughout the book is the Stoic suspicion of ego. Ego wants recognition, superiority, vindication, and applause. It wants every disagreement to become personal and every achievement to become identity. The Daily Stoic keeps pushing the reader away from that trap. The Stoic life is not organized around being admired. It is organized around being good. This is a demanding shift because the desire to be seen runs deep. People want to win arguments, prove worth, display competence, and receive confirmation from others. But ego is exhausting. It makes calm impossible because it constantly scans for insult, comparison, and hierarchy. The book asks what would happen if you stopped letting your emotional life be governed by those signals. What if being right mattered less than being wise? What if being praised mattered less than acting honorably? What if your standards became more internal? This is one reason Stoicism can feel both humbling and relieving. It lowers the emotional noise created by performance. It reminds us that many inner storms are powered by the need to protect or enlarge the self-image. When that need softens, there is more room for usefulness, patience, and serenity. The Daily Stoic is not simply a book about calmness. It is a book about character. The Stoics believed that the good life is not defined primarily by pleasure, wealth, reputation, or ease. It is defined by virtue, by the quality of the person you become. Wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance are not decorative ideals in this philosophy. They are the center. This matters because modern readers often approach Stoicism mainly as an emotional survival tool. They want resilience, composure, and perspective. The Daily Stoic offers those things, but it also asks more of the reader. Are you fair? Are you brave? Are you restrained when temptation appears? Are you honest when lying would benefit you? Are you calm not only for your own comfort, but so you can serve others well? This ethical emphasis gives the book seriousness. It does not want you merely to feel better. It wants you to become better. And that makes the book more than a stress management system. It becomes a moral practice. a daily confrontation with the difference between convenience and integrity, between impulse and principle, between self-protection and courage. One of the most striking aspects of Stoicism is its willingness to think about death directly. The Daily Stoic does this often, not to frighten the reader, but to sharpen life. Death, from the Stoic point of view, is not an abstract problem to be hidden from. It is a fact that gives urgency and proportion to existence. We waste time when we pretend time is endless. We postpone what matters because we behave as though there will always be another chance. The book repeatedly reminds the reader that life is finite, and, because it is finite, it should not be spent in vanity, resentment, pettiness, or distraction. This awareness can sound severe at first, but there is compassion in it. When mortality becomes real, many false urgencies weaken. Trivial complaints shrink. Gratitude becomes more accessible. The day in front of you stops feeling disposable. The Stoic invitation is not to become gloomy. It is to become awake. Use today well because it is not guaranteed. Speak honestly while you can. Love while you can. Act with integrity while you can. There is a tenderness hidden inside this severity. Mortality makes the ordinary luminous if you let it. A defining Stoic insight is that obstacles are not interruptions to the path. In many ways, they are the path. The Daily Stoic returns often to the idea that life will contain setbacks, delays, criticism, pain, confusion, and difficult people. The question is not whether hardship can be eliminated. The question is what hardship can teach and reveal. Stoicism does not romanticize suffering, but it refuses to waste it. Difficulty becomes training in patience, clarity, resilience, perspective, and courage. This is one reason the philosophy has remained so attractive across centuries. It assumes life will be hard in some form. And because of that, it remains useful when optimism feels too fragile or unrealistic. The book does not say that pain is pleasant. It says pain can be shaped into strength if met with the right posture. That does not happen automatically. Some people become bitter under strain. Others become deeper, steadier, and more generous. The difference lies partly in interpretation and practice. The Stoic does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic asks, "What is this asking of me?" That change in question transforms suffering from a personal insult into a moral and psychological challenge. Modern life rewards reaction. Quick outrage, instant opinion, visible emotion, and constant stimulation shape the public atmosphere. The Daily Stoic offers a very different rhythm. Slow down. Pause. Observe. Respond deliberately. This is one reason the book feels increasingly relevant. The Stoic ideal is not numbness, but steadiness. To remain unshaken by every rumor, insult, trend, and provocation is not to withdraw from reality. It is to preserve the ability to meet reality lucidly. Emotional reactivity often feels powerful in the moment, but it usually reduces intelligence. It narrows perception and hands control to whatever triggered it. The Stoic response restores agency. Before speaking, examine. Before assuming, verify. Before resenting, question the story you are telling. This discipline is not glamorous, but it is deeply liberating. A person who can remain composed amid turbulence becomes harder to manipulate and harder to derail. The book teaches this not as a performance of coolness, but as a moral necessity. A reactive person often hurts themselves and others. A steady person has a better chance of doing what the moment truly requires. A common misunderstanding of Stoicism is that it is about private detachment, a way of becoming so inwardly protected that the world can no longer reach you. The Daily Stoic pushes against that misunderstanding. Stoicism includes responsibility. It includes duty. It includes how one behaves toward other people. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all understood that philosophy must be tested in relationship. It matters how you treat coworkers, strangers, family members, rivals, and subordinates. It matters whether calm becomes compassion or merely distance. The book often reminds the reader that wisdom is not proven in isolation. It is proven in conduct. Are you patient when others are difficult? Are you just when you have power? Are you useful when it would be easier to complain? Are you willing to contribute rather than merely preserve your own comfort? This aspect of the book keeps Stoicism from becoming self-centered. The purpose of inner steadiness is not only private serenity. It is to help you act more honorably and more effectively in the shared world. The genius of the Daily Stoic is that it understands how human beings actually change. Not through one inspiring insight, but through repetition. You can read a brilliant idea and still forget it the next morning when traffic is bad, the inbox is overflowing, or someone says something careless and irritating. The daily format works because it expects forgetfulness. It assumes the mind must be brought back again and again to what matters. That makes the book less like a lecture and more like a practice hall. Each entry becomes a small reset, a reminder to return to control, perception, virtue, or perspective. Over time, these small resets accumulate. The reader does not simply remember Stoicism intellectually. They begin to absorb its tone. They become a little harder to provoke, a little quicker to recover perspective, a little less impressed by vanity, a little more serious about character. The daily structure respects the truth that philosophy is formed through recurrence. The mind needs training, and training is repetitive by nature. What does all of this look like in practice? The Daily Stoic gives many possible answers, but several stand out. When something upsets you, first separate the event from your interpretation of it. When facing uncertainty, return to what is actually in your power. When ego rises, ask whether you want to be admired or to be upright. When tempted by comfort, ask what self-respect requires. When anger appears, delay speech long enough for judgment to return. When success comes, do not become intoxicated by it. When failure comes, do not become defined by it. When dealing with others, act from justice rather than wounded pride. When time is being wasted, remember that life is finite and attention is precious. These lessons are not flashy, but they are durable. They do not depend on market conditions, social trends, or specific life stages. They are portable disciplines. This is one reason Stoicism continues to endure. It addresses human problems at a level deeper than circumstance. Ambition, grief, insult, fear, temptation, loss, and mortality remain. The need for composure and character remains too. In the end, the Daily Stoic succeeds because it restores philosophy to daily life. It takes ideas that could remain abstract and places them inside mornings, setbacks, conversations, temptations, ambitions, disappointments, and ordinary decisions. It reminds us that wisdom is not proven by what we can explain, but by how we live. The central lesson of the book is not that life will become controllable. It will not. The central lesson is that the self can become steadier, clearer, and more honorable in the face of what life brings. That is a demanding promise, but also a hopeful one. We may not control events, but we can shape our attention. We may not prevent pain, but we can refuse to worsen it through confusion and vanity. We may not escape mortality, but we can make better use of time. And through daily practice, those truths become less like quotations and more like a way of being. That is what the Daily Stoic ultimately offers, not inspiration alone, but training for a more grounded and principled life.